Imagine sailing across an ocean, with no GPS, no maps of the land ahead, and no idea if you'll ever return. The year is 1492. The world is flat, at least most people think so, and one man dares to prove them wrong. He's not a noble, not a king, just a sailor with a dream. But his journey would change the course of history forever. This is the real story of how America was discovered. Before Columbus, Europe was in a state of change. The Middle Ages were ending, the Renaissance was beginning. Knowledge, curiosity, and trade were spreading fast. Europeans were obsessed with finding a faster route to Asia, especially India and China, for spices, silk, and gold. But the traditional land routes were blocked or dangerous due to wars and the growing power of the Ottoman Empire. So explorers turned to the sea. Portugal had already begun sailing down the coast of Africa, but one man had a bolder idea. Christopher Columbus was born in Genoa, Italy, around 1451. He became a skilled sailor at a young age and believed he could reach Asia by sailing west across the Atlantic Ocean. Most experts disagreed. They believed the journey would take far too long and that he would never survive, but Columbus was convinced. He just needed someone to fund his risky plan. Columbus spent years begging European kings and queens for ships and funding. Finally, in 1492, Queen Isabella and King Ferdinand of Spain took the gamble. They agreed to support his voyage. He was given 3 ships, the Niña, the Pinta, and the Santa Maria, his flagship. On August 3, 1492, Columbus set sail from Spain into the unknown. The journey was brutal: storms, heat, sickness, fear. After a few weeks at sea, Columbus's crew began to panic. They hadn't seen land in over a month. Whispers of mutiny began. But on October 12, 1492, after 70 days at sea, a sailor named Rodrigo de Triana shouted from the Pinta, "Tierra! Tierra! Land! Land!" They had reached what is now known as the Bahamas. Columbus believed he had reached islands off the coast of Asia. But he was wrong. Columbus and his men met the native Taino people, kind, generous, and welcoming. They traded goods, shared food, and learned about each other. But Columbus saw something else: gold ornaments on the natives. He immediately wrote in his journal that these lands could be exploited, and that the people could be converted to Christianity, or used as labor. This was the beginning of a darker legacy. Columbus returned to Spain in 1493 with exotic birds, gold, and a few captured natives. He was treated like a hero. The Spanish court celebrated him. He promised even more riches and lands on future voyages. Columbus would go on to lead 4 voyages to the New World, but he never knew he had found an entirely new continent. He died in 1506, still believing he had reached Asia. Columbus did not discover America in the way many people believe. Millions of indigenous people had already lived across North and South America for thousands of years. Advanced civilizations like the Aztecs, the Maya, and the Inca. But, his voyages opened the floodgates for European exploration, colonization, and conquest. Nations raced to claim land. The world map was about to be redrawn, and for Native Americans, life would never be the same. The so-called discovery led to the Columbian Exchange, a massive transfer of goods, animals, plants, and diseases between the Old World and the New. From Europe came horses, cattle, wheat, smallpox. From the Americas came corn, potatoes, tomatoes, chocolate. It reshaped economies, diets, and entire civilizations, but honestly, it also brought disease, slavery, and war, wiping out up to 90% of indigenous populations in some regions. It was the beginning of both great expansion and great tragedy. Today, Columbus is a controversial figure. For centuries he was celebrated as a brave explorer who discovered America. But modern historians see a more complex truth, a man of vision, yes, but also a symbol of colonization and cruelty. That's why many U.S. states now recognize Indigenous Peoples Day instead of Columbus Day, to honor those who lived here long before 1492. So what did Columbus really discover? Not a new world, but the beginning of a new age. A global collision of cultures, ideas, goods, and yes, conflict. The voyage of 1492 changed the world forever, and the ripples are still felt today. This was the story of how America was discovered. But it's only the beginning of the story of America itself.